Hello, I'm Mikael, as Britta pointed out. I'm a front-end engineer, and for the past decade I've been working in the Stockholm tech startup scene. So I've gathered some insights during my years, and that's the sort of background for this speech. So this speech is really about those insights, those pieces of golden nuggets from the tech world. All right, so let's just jump into this and hopefully it makes sense. Skills, that's all we got basically. And let's see, you are your own product in a sense. Companies work with products and or services, and your skill set is basically your product that you sell. So it's kind of important that you treasure those skills and enhance those skills when you can, or that you learn something new. Focus. It's kind of hard to keep up with everything that happens around you all the time when developing, and quite often you might be distracted from where you are currently going by things in the sidelines. So you might read something on Slack, someone is posting something about some new NPM package or cool tech that you feel kind of tempted to implement, or you might think it solves your problems better than the things you have in your project. And I think it's important to set up the sort of boundaries before you start your project, so you know what tools you have. And that's sort of the punchline here. Get shit done with the tools you have at hand. Don't start introducing new things or new technologies halfway through the project, because even though it might solve some problem, it quite often brings more problems down the line. So, Deja Vu. In development, when you have been working for a long time or in different projects or at different companies, you might get the feeling of déjà vu. Like, haven't I been here, done this before? And I think this is where the answer is quite often yes, and that's because products that different companies have are not that unique, to be honest. It's more or less more of the same thing. I think that when you reach this point, I think that it's a golden opportunity to sort of reevaluate the ways you work and try to work smarter, not harder, not keep repeating yourself and doing all the things all over again. But it's also a good point because you have done something, so you know how to do it. All right, loyalty. Touchy subject. I wasn't really sure I was going to bring this into the presentation, but it's something that I feel strongly about. It's something that have helped me during the years. Basically, companies are often talking about loyalty, and it may be asked from you to be loyal to companies. That's sort of where it gets a bit sensitive. I think that you should be loyal to yourself and to sort of know your value for companies, because development is not always about what's good for the company. It's quite often what's good for you, and to know your value to the company, then you can sort of make demands for your own benefit. All right, and then it's this title is kind of strange, but quite often in development I feel that we're sort of circling around a bit. You read about some technology, and you might not really know how to apply it to your work, or if you should, or when. You might lack the skill set to actually understand this technology fully. And I'm going to take WebSockets for an example. So the first time I heard about WebSockets was around 2012 maybe. Just started my career in front-end development, and I thought it was pretty cool. For those of you who don't know what WebSockets is, it's sort of event-driven messaging between the client and the server. Like I said, I didn't really fully grasp what WebSockets was all about until a decade later, this summer, when I was doing a project and started to think about, shouldn't there be another way for front-end to communicate with the backend to sort of fetch information. And that sort of communication is often done with the fetch API, and it's good, but it's not the coolest. And then I sort of remembered this WebSockets thingy and read up on it, and all of a sudden it made perfect sense to me. And I even asked some of you in the JavaScript Slack channel, because for me it was like I heard about this 10 years ago, is it still used? And apparently it is, so that's a good way to sort of circle back to tech. And then trust. This is probably one of the harder things for developers, because you might not trust yourself all the time. You might fail in that sort of sense. You know that you have some skills, you know that you can do certain things, but sometimes you sort of feel that trust is failing. And when I just started here, I was going for an interview at Apple that I failed. But before that, I was getting some pointers from one of you. It was pretty good advice I got. Trust in yourself as others have trusted in you. I never met this guy, but it was a really good thing to say. And this is something that I try to sort of remind myself of every time I sort of come to that point where I'm starting to doubt myself, like, am I really good enough for this? Or the client is asking you tough questions, and then thinking this to myself, kind of, yeah, I'm probably good enough. And then keeping it real. This is a pretty hard phrase for Swedish people, I think, in general, because it's like, what does it mean, keeping it real? I think that it's about being honest and genuine to yourself, and to sort of do what you love. That's the kind of best way to learn and to move forward. Yeah, move forward and enjoy the ride. That's the end. That's all. It should probably say questions here, but...
Yeah, thank you so much, Mikael. And I want to open it up for questions. I mean, Mikael has a lot of experience, so it's an open book for any questions that you might have or thoughts you want to hear from Mikael.
So front-end engineer, that's a new phrase for me. What is the difference between front-end developer?
Well, I don't know, but we're all software engineers. I thought I twisted a bit.
You were talking about trust, and I guess it involves like imposter syndrome and stuff like that. Do you have any tips or tricks to overcome that?
Well, it's that imposter syndrome is always sort of looking over your shoulder, and it's I don't really have any tips or tricks to overcome it. It's just it's ridiculous, really. Because you've worked so hard that you've gotten to a point where you signed a deal for a job, or at least gotten to the point where you are on an interview for a job, and you wouldn't get there if you didn't know what you know. So I think the best way to sort of shake that imposter syndrome feeling is just to not think about that. It's just, yeah.
You mentioned that over the years with experience, you noticed that more and more you've actually seen the same problem before, and it comes up again. So you can maybe then rely more on your experience rather than ingenuity to solve a problem because you already solved it once before. How do you stay open to new types of solutions? If you've solved the same problem 4 times before in a special manner, this 5th time, someone comes with a different suggestion. How do you stay open to the new suggestion, which might be not in balance with your old solution?
Yeah, I understand what you mean, kind of, but it's like you build something 100 times, and for the 101st time, someone comes with a suggestion on how to build it. I would be totally open for changing it, to building it in a new way. I don't think that my experience of how to do a certain thing is the best way. I think everyone should sort of try to stay open to, well, that's sort of part of learning new things, isn't it?
On your career, when you were more of a junior developer, is there anything you can share that you would do differently now when you look back on that?
When I was a junior developer, my primary goal was to become a senior developer. So I think that maybe my advice to a junior developer would be to enjoy the ride a bit more and not focus so much on what to come, like in terms of seniority.
You talked lastly about keeping it real and being genuine and true to yourself. What do you think are some of the challenges of being genuine, or why is that a problem? And what have you done over your career to help yourself be more genuine and true to yourself?
Also a difficult question. I think that when we're working in tech, we will be facing different types of technology, maybe in different types of work, and we're sort of expected to just deal with it. I think that if you find that this is not what you really want to do, then feel free to sort of find a new job. I'm not saying that in a harsh way, but sort of for your own personal development's sake. And that could be anything from like technologies to colleagues and management, anything that doesn't sort of align with your values. Should you really stick around, and why? So maybe just seeking out what's the best fit for you in terms of management or tech stack or colleagues or whatever.
You mentioned WebSockets a little bit earlier. Do you have any other blast to the past kind of tech that you encountered and like, oh yeah, I read about this earlier, and I think it could suit this project? Or
nothing that I can think of right now, but I quite often feel that that you sort of move in circles in a way, that you come across something, you read about it, and then you sort of pass it to the sidelines currently because you want to keep focusing on what you do now, and then maybe sometime later you come back to this, and then you sort of reevaluate that technology. I don't really have another good example.
If you reflect back more to the times when you were studying, do you think there is some major thing that you were not taught and you did not understand before you got this experience? What would be this one thing be?
Oh, okay. One thing I was not taught. Well, so I studied media technology, and it's kind of web development, kind of web design, kind of usability. So, and that was, I don't know, 20 years ago. I'm sure a lot has changed since then. There was many things I wasn't taught, but on the other hand, it's all kind of different now. Back then it was PHP or Java, static, no front end for sure, as little JavaScript as possible. And then we kind of moved into where we are now, where we have one application on the front end basically, and one on the back end, and also moving more towards back end now. So it's all sort of going back and forth. I don't really know what to pick. Tough question. I'll think about it.
Can't hear myself. Oh, there we go. Now I can. Thanks, Michael, for your talk. It was a life in tech, and of course, like tech that's quite a broad stroke in terms of all-encompassing. I'll say that. So when you are thinking about like your life and your life in the tech field, then what sort of, how do you go from there? How do you learn on a constant basis? Because it's so vast and there's so much you could learn and there's so many avenues you could take. How do you kind of direct yourself? And then when you do, then how do you find that you learn best? Is it learning by doing, or learning by studying, or learning by seeking out a mentor or something of the like?
I think it's a combination of the three. First, of course, you need to read up on things, study, and then Yes, I learn best by doing. So I build a prototype just to get the sort of hang of it and thinking. But then, of course, like mentorship is golden in many ways. It can be like a more senior developer than you or someone else. So yeah, but of course, I mean, you can only learn sort of ideas or ways of thinking from a mentor. You can't really learn hands-on coding. That I guess requires hands-on coding.
And when you have, like, because based on what you're saying, then it sounds like you've had mentors in your life and in your experience. You know, for those who are seeking, you know, to grow in some way, whether they're exploring something totally new because they're already quite a specialist in what they do, or if they're looking to develop in their own craft and what they already do, then how have you found your mentors, and where might others be able to find those mentors if they're seeking them?
Well, my first sort of real mentor was sort of a kind of a manager, not my boss, but around, and he kind of explained the value in extracting yourself from what you're doing, in terms of not putting your soul into something. If we're talking about design, maybe don't treat the design as your baby, because if someone starts poking it, it won't feel good. So that's one thing, and then of course not, or trying to keep the code clean, to sort of allow the next developer for a smooth transition. I think it's difficult if the question is where to find a mentor, or if I mean I've had mentors in front-end leads or lead developers, those kind of positions as well. I think it depends on where you are and what you're kind of looking for.
Hello, yeah. 20 years in life in tech, so that's quite a long experience and time. I'm curious about how do you see as a developer that the view on technology and you in your role as a developer has changed during these years?
It's changed quite a bit, I would say, because I was thinking about it during the panel discussion that we just watched, and I'd say 15 years ago maybe it was different in that you were a developer or a web designer, and the web designer was basically responsible for both the visual design and the implementation of the UX part. And then you had the other developers, were maybe back-end developers or system engineers. So that changed, I think, in 2010 or something like that, where it sort of shifted, and the web designer role split up into front-end developers and UI, UX developers or designers. And I'm quite sure it will either merge again or split up even more. I don't know. But it's changing. I think it's for the better in a way, because some people like coding more and some people like designing more. But it's, yeah.
So I was looking at your slide of the value, and I was thinking, do you have any reflections or ideas regarding work-life balance?
Oh, I suck at work-life balance. I wish I had. Yeah, I tend to work too much and do life too little. But some people that I've worked with, some colleagues of ours, have been really good at sort of getting up early in the morning, starting the day at 8, and then shutting off the laptop at 5, or whatever the time is really. I've never really understood how many hours you're supposed to work. I know it's 8 hours a day, but does that include lunch? Or, yeah. So, yeah, you're asking the wrong person.
Oh, all right. Thanks so much, Mikael. One more round of applause for Mikael for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.